Coming to you from the Oddball Podcast Studios in New York City. My name is Vin Forte, and you're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. You'll follow the show over on Twitter at Oddball Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Mighty Vin. Follow me over on Instagram at Vin Forte NYC. Go leave a nice comment over on the YouTube channel. Go like and subscribe over there, youtube.com/at Oddball Podcast. If you're only watching on YouTube, go listen to the pod. The audio version only over on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from. You know where to get your podcasts from because you're listening to one right now. And like I said, vice versa. If you're only listening, go watch the audio, go watch the audio version. Well, I guess that you could technically just, if you turn the video on and just close your eyes, you can watch the audio version. But, you know, there's a video component as well that I would like you to enjoy, hopefully. Like I said, youtube.com/at Oddball Podcast. That's the one I'm pushing the most right now. Go subscribe over there. If you would be so kind, it's the number one way to help out the show right now. And what a show it is today. There's a lot going on. Basketball related, non-James Harden related. I know the past couple of weeks, very James Harden heavy. This week, not so much. In fact, we're going to start things off with track and field. Kinda. Noah Lyle, obviously, for those who don't know, Olympic sprinter, was at a press conference this past weekend, and I think completely unprovoked. It wasn't like someone asked him about it. He talked about, the sort of old semantic argument of what's in a world champion. And he specifically cited the NBA, that, NBA champion, you win the finals. They call it a world champion. You are the champion of the world. Same thing in, MLB and football, you're the world champion. But obviously, and in his mind specifically, in Noah Lyle's mind, that's not the case. How could anyone be the world champion when you're not playing the rest of the world? As if that's not a thought that we've all had before. So this is a weird thing. So he said it. All the big NBA stars jumped him afterwards. Obviously KD was in his mentions. Damian Lillard was in his. They were all coming out of the woodwork and just dunking on this guy. I forget who said it. Someone was a real idiot and was like, "Oh, I'll beat you in a 200-minute." Yeah, go kick rocks. Come on, let's not talk stupid now. But I think this is a case where two things can be true at once. Yeah, if we're going to argue semantics, technically, when you win the world championship in, let's say, the NBA, did you beat the rest of the world? No. But do we all understand it to be and to mean that you winning this makes you an all-world talent or an all-world team, that you winning this championship puts you on the level of the greats around the world? Also, yes. I think that's sort of the consensus that most people have come to. And, if you want to decide a world champion, have a contest. There may come a day where we truly have something in basketball like soccer does with the Champions League in UEFA in Europe, where, each league, the top teams from that league every year compete in the Champions League. And then the winner of the Champions League is like, the biggest dog in the yard. Like you've got bragging rights forever. Your team, nobody could say anything. You win the Champions League, forget it. That's it. There's no argument after that. You are quite literally, the champion of champions. So I see where people are coming from on both sides of this. I think he was just kind of joking around. I don't think people should be like all up in his mentions, like trying to ruin this guy. It's like, come on. Come on. Clearly he was saying some stuff in jest. But, it sparked a lot of discussion. And it just so happens that this is all happening right now in conjunction with the FIBA basketball World Cup. And the thing with the FIBA Basketball World Cup is you may have seen people talking about it this week because it's kind of, it's just starting to get hot, just starting to ramp up. People were talking about Anthony Edwards and how great he is, and Austin Reeves, and we've got such great young guys playing in the FIBA Basketball World Cup this year. And it comes around every 4 years, and there's a couple key reasons why it feels like people are finally paying attention to it, where they kind of haven't, at least in America, over, the past like 20, 30 years. A lot of it, believe it or not, has to do with the fact that it would always coincide the same year with the World Cup. The actual, like, FIFA World Cup. Not the FIBA World Cup, the FIFA World Cup, the soccer World Cup. And you're just not going to win that fight. Like, that dog don't hunt. Like, you're just not... like, even though soccer's not the biggest in America, worldwide, and even in America, when the World Cup comes around, that's like soccer's big moment in America. Like, even Americans pay attention at that point. So you're not beating that. And then, even this year at the FIBA Basketball World Cup, we're sending great young guys, but a lot of our top players, you don't see LeBron going over there. Granted, he's older. You don't see Steph going over there. And the people you do see going over, like Luka, wow, he can't be on our team. He's not born and bred in America. I don't know at a glance if Giannis is playing, but if Giannis is playing, guess what? He ain't playing for America. He can't. He's not American. A lot of our players right now, of our best players, not from here. So there's this sort of extra rallying cry that people are sort of getting behind this year, where it's like, hey, we kind of have to assert our dominance. Like, for as much as we're a generation right now where the whole rah-rah America, like, we've got to do things just because, like, we've got to do things for America just because we live here and, like, we salute the flag. Again, that doesn't really fly with a lot of people in our generation. I would even say myself included. Like, is sort of blind. I'm not saying patriotism is bad, but, like, blind patriotism is bad. Where it's like, I don't even know why I'm saluting this flag. Like, you should at least know why. You should at least know, like, why you are supposed to give reverence to certain things. And then you can decide if you want to agree with it or not. But in the case of sports, this has been a thing that's been sort of bubbling over for a long time now. And when it comes to basketball and it comes to FIBA, it just hasn't been the thing. Like, FIBA games were played, Basketball World Cup games were played at like 1 a.m. And yeah, if you look online, I did some homework beforehand. The stats will tell you that, this FIBA World Cup game at 1 a.m. drew 600,000 people, watching it in America. Okay, that's great. It's still on at 1 a.m. You know what I mean? It's not primetime television. Is that great for 1 a.m.? Yeah, 600, a little over 500,000 people is great for 1 a.m. But in the past couple of years, there's been a concerted effort because of all the talent coming in from overseas that, again, two things can be true at once. NBA is the greatest league because everyone wants to play here, so we've got the best talent. But does that mean that America has the best team? I don't know. I think we do, but I think the world is catching up. I think the FIBA Basketball World Cup is sort of a prelude, even though it's the World Cup, and you would think this is like, should be the equivalent of the FIFA World Cup. It's funny in soccer, at least the perception in America, the World Cup, when it comes to soccer, the World Cup is everything, and the Olympics are kind of just like whatever. They're almost like a prelude to the World Cup later on, or like an aside to that. Whereas when it comes to basketball, it kind of feels like the FIBA Basketball World Cup is like the prelude to the Olympics. Like if we lose the FIBA Basketball World Cup, they're gonna bring that up the next year when we go to the Olympics. They will. There's no getting around it. So basically, what I'm asking at the end of all of this is, I really want to know from you: have you been watching? Are you planning on watching now that it's sort of getting down to the nitty gritty? And the America has done really well in the group stages, and now we're sort of getting into the tournament proper. Will you watch? Have you been watching? Do you think that it even matters? Again, let me know. Social media at Oddball Podcast and at Mighty Vin over on Twitter /X. I still hate saying that. At Vin Forte NYC over on Instagram. And obviously, you can leave a comment on this YouTube video, youtube.com /at Oddball Podcast. So let me know what you think of the World Cup, the FIBA Basketball World Cup. And you know what? We're about to stick with basketball for a little bit. And I know some people don't like talking about him. But this guy, Ben Simmons, and listen, I'm horribly biased. You know me. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I'm a lifelong Nets fan. New Jersey and Brooklyn. This Ben Simmons trade has not been good for us. Not at all. There was some promise that, like, okay, well, if he could get back on his feet and at least, like, start playing and being half the Ben Simmons that he used to be and could facilitate the ball, that, him and having Mikal Bridges on the team and, all the young guys, like, this could be good. Could be a nice little situation for Brooklyn. But the problem is Ben's got to get on the court. Ben's got to actually play some games. That's the problem with Ben. And, he got a lot of leeway from a lot of people, including myself, when he claimed mental illness. But then I think he's sort of ridden that a little too far. But then, people kind of came back around because it was like, hey, he really wasn't the player that he once was. But the thing I don't like is, and this is like a prime example, like what he's doing right now is a prime example. I don't like when athletes haven't been on the court in a while, and then all they do is just post videos of themselves in the gym, doing layup lines, being like, I'm ready. You haven't seen me on the court in 3 years, but I'm ready. And he's been doing that. Zion did that. Remember Zion did that windmill dunk when he still wasn't cleared to play, and people were like, dude, what are you doing? Who are you trying to prove here? Who are you trying to impress? And Ben's doing the exact same thing. All the shirtless pictures, which allegedly may have been photoshopped from some stuff I've seen online, but that's neither here nor there. He's trying to let people know he's swole. He's swole Ben coming back. And he was quoted this week as saying he can't wait to get back in the league and start dominating again. All right, Ben, you got to calm down. You got to calm down, buddy. I'm rooting for you. Listen, I'm the Nets fan here. I'm rooting for Ben Simmons. Like I said, if he can come back and be half the Ben Simmons he was at his peak and, be a great facilitator, it could be okay. It could be nice. It could be nice to have him back on the team, but he's got to actually get out there and play. He's got to get on the court at baby steps. You don't just go from 2 to 10 like that. You got to actually put in the work and get on the court. Get on the damn court. And that's what he hasn't done yet. So, again, like, I was going to say we're all rooting for you. I don't know if everyone's rooting for him. I'm rooting for him. But he's not making it easy. He is not making it easy whatsoever. It's gonna be a wild season, and I didn't even touch on the fact that at the beginning of the season we've got that tournament. Like, I know I talked about it like a month ago, but I'm still licking my chops at what the reaction is going to be because there's been way too much hullabaloo, and I just don't think it's that big a deal to get like super worked up over either way until you get to like the finals, until you get to like that last week. Then it'll be kind of fun, but I just hope people don't, go overboard one way or the other with it. So that's basketball for now. That's my basketball spiel for this week. So Ben Simmons, calm down. Slow your roll, though. But right now, I want to sort of talk a little bit about sports media. We've talked enough basketball for today. Let's talk about sports media. This past week, Undisputed came back after like a 2-month hiatus. Came back retooled. No Shannon Sharp. He's going over to First Take. And it's kind of like they did a weird swap. Like Undisputed got, First Take got Shannon Sharp, and in exchange, Skip Bayless picked up Michael Irvin, excuse me, Keyshawn Johnson from ESPN, both of them, and then Richard Sherman in free agency. And it's been an interesting couple days checking out that show. Is this am I wrong in thinking that this is like some weird Skip Bayless face turn that he's trying to like soften his image a little? Because he has really taken a back seat on his own show. He's really gone back. And look, some of the younger people who may be listening might not even remember this, but before there was First Take, it was called Cold Pizza. And even when it was First Take originally, it was more of like a round table debate show instead of sort of like the one-on-one. Now, I know Stephen A. Smith has kind of gone back to that a little bit with First Take, but at least Stephen A. Smith, like it's his show. It's his show. Like Molly's the moderator. Stephen A. Smith is the dominant voice on that show. He'll let you speak. The memes and the tropes and the goofs and the gaps with Stephen A. But like if you actually watch, he's pretty good at being respectful to his guests, although he will always, make sure that he gets his opinions in because it's his show. But this new Undisputed, it's like, I don't know what you'd call it. That first day, at least, where a bunch of guys yelling, and Skip Bayless just kind of sitting back, being like, like, what is this? Like, what have I gotten myself into? Like, you could almost hear the Curb Your Enthusiasm music playing because he could not get a word in edgewise. Nor did it seem like he wanted to be fair. I'm not going to, put this all on the three other guys that just because they're, maybe more dominant personalities and that they're all coming together and sort of, brushing against each other. I think this was a genuine attempt by Skip Bayless to sort of stand back a little bit. And look, we'll see how it goes. Today it was a little different. He had Keyshawn Johnson and Rachel Nichols, so that was a whole different dynamic. And it was more like he was interviewing them, just sort of very, very calm conversations. Not a lot of anyone yelling. So, I say all of that and talk about Undisputed coming back to pose this question. Has the audience, the general audience, grown tired of this whole, quote, embrace debate format? Not that people don't want debates and arguments on television. Like, that's always going to be in fashion to some degree. But are people kind of sick, or at least just like tired and have had their fill of just the one-on-one, I'm right, you're wrong, there's no middle ground here? Because I gotta say, even when Undisputed was at its loudest the past couple of days, it was still people trying to get different points out there, because it wasn't just one-on-one, you know what I'm saying? Like, when it's one-on-one, it's literally you versus someone else, and you will throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at them to try and make your point. Whereas if you've got even just one other person in the mix, it then becomes a game of, okay, what's your point? Oh, well, let me bring this point up now. Oh, this person's going to jump in with their point. And you really can't get like super cutthroat like it used to be, just him and Shannon Sharp, or even with him and Stephen A. So again, it begs the question, like, I'm not going to say, are we done with embrace debate, but is it kind of going by the wayside? Are people getting, I don't want to say a little more savvy, but you see how many people, have podcasts now, present company included. But all the athletes and even people up at the top. Skip Bayless, 71 years old, has been trying to get a podcast off the ground. Hasn't really worked, but he's been trying. Stephen A. Smith, his has worked because he's got that radio background. He knows how to do a show. It's him doing a podcast is just slipping back into his radio show basically. So there are some people who are going to get it, and some who aren't, who maybe are, this current format is going to pass them by a little bit. That they've only known, sort of how to do one way of this kind of television. And now the climate is changing. And I think people want a little more substance. Again, like going back to podcasts, like the example I always bring up outside of sports is late night television. Because there was a time and a place where you had to watch The Tonight Show. And that was like 40 years ago, Johnny Carson. Where it was like you had to watch that night to see what celebrity was going to come by, what jokes were going to be, what was he going to talk about, who was going to be the musical guest. Like, because there weren't a lot of options out there, one. But also, it was your entree into a certain level of access. Oh my God, that's the guy from the movies. He's on my TV, and he's getting, questions asked of him by this funny guy. There's something novel about that. In the past 10 years, though, who needs late night TV? Why would I want to, that same actor or personality who would go on the Tonight Show or Letterman or wherever and do a 6 to 12 minute interview. Well, I could hear them, do an hour and a half long podcast with someone who wants them on. That's the other thing too. Like, there's so many podcasts out there in so many different lanes and verticals that it's like, the same person who would go on Johnny Carson, being the host of one of those shows like Johnny Carson is a skill in of itself, because you've got to deal with people from different arenas coming to your studio every single night. And you've got to be able to ask them questions, whether it's a famous actor, an author, a zoologist, whoever it is, you've got to know what to say to them. You've got to lead the show. And you got to do a good job of it. But now, those same people, you know what? Maybe, Johnny Carson's asking the zoologist a question, but, Johnny Carson's not a zoologist. He's going to ask, very cursory, borderline generic questions. Whereas if that same zoologist goes on, the podcast dedicated to, looking up, I don't even know. I'm trying to come up with some weird example of like, monkeys in the rainforest or something. Like, that podcast, the Monkeys in the Rainforest podcast, is going to have more specific questions, is going to want to have that zoologist on, and it's going to be like, what about this genome with the apes? And if they discovered this new cell structure that ties them back to humans from the, 100 million years ago. Like, they're going to ask really detailed questions. Questions that you wouldn't have gotten from a Johnny Carson or a Jay Leno. Certainly not from a Jay Leno. I think that same structure applies to what's going on in sports media right now. Why would I want to listen to, someone go on First Take or go on Undisputed or, have just, two guys go back and forth when I can listen to both ways? If I want to listen to those two guys back and forth, I'll go with the podcast where they can really stretch out and get, as much time as they want to make their arguments. And it will probably be a more substantial episode. And then on the flip side, if they do an interview on something like Undisputed, again, it's going to be like a 6 to 12 minute spiel where everyone's got to get their stuff in. And if it were a podcast, again, you could breathe a little more. You could stretch out. You could think. You could take every point into consideration. You could have a long-running conversation. I think conversation is coming back. I think debate, it's not going away. But I think embrace debate. We're still going to embrace debate. But we're also going to embrace conversation. I think that's where it's moving. I think people just want a little bit more. And not only do they want a little bit more, I think they expect a little bit more. Because we like the fireworks, right? Like, we like, when Skip and Shane go at each other. People can bemoan it all they want. We see the clicks online. We see how many people watch this stuff. People screaming about, oh, well, Nick Wright. Yeah, well, he's like the hottest personality on FS1 right now. And, like, he's been getting every opportunity known to man, and in like rumors to replace Shannon Sharp. Like, so someone's watching this guy. On the flip side, the people who, like, for whatever, I love Bomani Jones. Like, some people seem to like bemoan Bomani Jones for some reason. Meanwhile, like, the guy I think is like mostly on the money with a lot, really level-headed about everything. And, I think you could say that about a lot of personalities. That, whoever it is, whether it's a Nick Wright, a Bomani Jones, Keyshawn Johnson, Michael Irvin, Stephen A. Smith, Jay Williams, whoever it is, take your pick. They're going to be better when they can stretch out a little bit. Again, going back to Bomani and Nick Wright, here's the point I was trying to make, and that kind of had a brain fart, is that people hear sound bites of these guys, and they go, well, it's a bad take, man. Meanwhile, if you actually listen to them, like, on their podcasts and, like, fully, when they're able to, again, like, stretch out and give their whole opinion, it's really never that crazy. It's really never the most insane opinion in the world. Because you're able to get the full context. The format is trapping people. It's the format that needs to change. That's why Undisputed is trying to mix things up. That's why First Take 2 years ago tried to mix things up. Because the format is strangling people. When you loosen up the format and you're able to give a broader context, I think people respond a little better because people hear more of the argument. Again, yeah, you could still have the debate, you could still have the fireworks, but you're going to get a clearer view of it and you're going to get more substance. That's all I want. I think that's, like I said, it's what most people want. So, as far as Undisputed is concerned, we'll see how it goes. Again, it's very interesting to see a guy like Skip Bayless sort of sit back, though I suspect this is probably going to be one of those things where either you are on board with it, to begin with, or you're not. Like, I'm not a regular Undisputed watcher. I checked in because everyone else is checking in. And I thought it was interesting. But unless they give me a reason to come back, I'm probably just going to, go back to watching PTI, which I still think is the old stalwart, the benchmark for these type of shows, because Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, they're friends. You know they're friends. They have a great rapport with each other. You can't buy that chemistry. That's years and years and years of them being reporters together and building that chemistry through over 20 plus years of PTI. And I think it still holds up. It's like, those, everyone has like those, that one uncle or those couple of uncles that are really into sports that kind of go back and forth with each other, but it's not like a jocular way. It's more like almost like a collegiate way. You know what I'm getting at? Maybe you don't know what I'm getting at. Maybe I should just move on. And move on I will to a real treat. Oh boy. Oh boy. If you are only listening to this pod and you do not see what's on the screen right now because you're only listening, boy, are you missing out. Talk about a cool down segment. It is Taco Bell, our old friends at Taco Bell. They gone done did it. They did it. I thought this was I legit fool me once. I thought this was legitimately a joke when I saw it. Taco Bell is getting Italian, baby. They are rolling out in one test market in California. And so help me God, I hope this goes nationwide. A Taco Bell Mountain Dew Baja Blast gelato. Let me make that clear. Not a Taco Bell Mountain Dew Baja Blast ice cream. A Taco Bell Mountain Dew Baja Blast gelato. Because gelato is creamier. It's more Italian. It gives it that little, to go French for a minute, a little je ne sais quoi. It is chef's kiss. Whoever came up with this, give them all the money. Give them all the R&D money. Let them just work at Taco Bell forever, because this is genius. Because we all love the Baja Blast. We all love ice cream. Don't you dare tell me you would not try this. The only problem, it's a problem that some fast food places, it's the problem they have sometimes, where it's an issue of timing. Like I said, this is great. We all love Baja Blast. If I think you're a goddamn liar if you say that you would not try this, because you will. With that said, though, as of this recording, it is August 31st. If you were to roll this out nationwide, you'd probably have to wait a full year, or like 9 months, because who the hell is eating this in the fall? Who is getting hyped? Let's say this thing is great. You're going to roll this out potentially in what, the middle of winter? When nobody has an appetite for ice cream? And this thing is just going to die on the vine? It might die on the vine anyway. It's only in one test market. But people seem to be going gaga over it. And look, I'm sure, I cannot wait for all the TikToks of people making their own Mountain Dew gelato ice cream with their home freezy machines. You know it's coming. And I'll try them. I'll try them all. No, but nothing phases me anymore at these fast food places, man. Nothing, and especially Taco Bell. Taco Bell, who had the gall, the unmitigated gall, to get rid of, at a certain point, the Choco Taco. Now, I don't believe the Choco Taco was ever owned by Taco Bell. I think it was like a separate company owned it, because they sold the Choco Taco in freezers, like supermarket freezers. And then what was it, like over COVID, like Choco Taco like went away? I don't know if it came back yet. You know what? This is too important to not look up. We're doing it. Screw it. We'll do it live. Let's see. Can I buy a... Oh, that's the first thing that comes up. I don't even have to fill in the whole answer. Do they still exist? Where to find a Choco Taco? Here's how to get one. There's good news for those hoping to get their hands on Choco Tacos before it's officially discontinued. And this is from 2002. So uh, I I can't get a gauge on this. Damn. What is going on? Where to get a better Choco? No, I want to know where the Choco Taco is. I'm reading an article from last year where it's like Choco Taco may come back. Choco Taco not quite dead yet. Oh, I'm reading that like there's stock of it. Like it's like when they discontinue a console. Remember when they discontinued the Dreamcast? But we're like, oh, we're still making games for all of 2002. But we've just got all these Dreamcasts in a warehouse, ready to go when people want them. But we're just not going to make any more after that. It's kind of like that. So as far as I can tell, it's discontinued. Sucks. Sorry, that's how we have to sort of peter out of this episode with. But hey, make your own Choco Taco, I guess. It can't be that hard, can it? I mean, I guess making the chocolate waffle shell has got to be a little tough because you gotta make it hard. I don't know, you need a special machine for that or something. I don't know. Make your own Choco Taco. Send me a clip of it on social media at Mighty Vin on Twitter, at Oddball Podcast over on Twitter as well, at Vin Forte NYC over on Instagram. If you're only listening to this podcast, go watch it as well and subscribe. YouTube.com/at Oddball Podcast. YouTube.com/at Oddball Podcast. So go do that. Again, leave a nice 5-star rating and review on Apple and Spotify, if you would be so kind. I tried to cut down the echo in my new studio here. So hopefully it worked this week. I opened some doors up, tried to cut the echo. I listened back last week. It actually wasn't that bad, so I'm not terribly concerned anymore. But I tried to cut it down. Well, I'll probably get some foam. Maybe. I'll probably forget and not get the foam. But whatever. Don't you forget to stick around next week. Same place, same time. You've been listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. My name is Vin Forte. Thank you once again for checking out the pod. Again, I don't know why that audio was glitching there, but we'll roll with it for now. See you next week. Bye-bye.